Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Zoo Live YouTube channel. My name is Dean, and today we're going to be covering compact travel setups for interview shoots. Now, whether you're shooting a corporate video or a run and gun documentary, having a kit that's effective, high quality, lightweight, and safe to get you in and out of places quickly is paramount when you're traveling. Now, we've traveled the country and sometimes even internationally shooting a ton of sit-down interviews, and we've done a lot of trial and error. We've done a lot of packing, repacking all our pelicans, and I think we've got to a point where we've finally hit our stride with what we think is probably one of the most effective kits that we can have on the road. Check it out. We recommend a hard case like a Pelican to safely store everything and also put everything in a compartment that's stowed away and is organized based on the category of equipment that it's in. For longer items like C-stands, light stands, diffusion frames, boom poles, sometimes even tripods, we'll use a longer bag or a hard case to store those things away safely. Now, one tip when you're flying is to research the airline you're flying on to see if they have media baggage. We like to fly American Airlines because they have a really nice media-friendly policy where oversized and overweight bags are a set rate. So when we come rolling in with these heavy Pelicans, we're not dinged and penalized for something that's really bulky. Another great tip when you're traveling on an airline is your bags are probably going to get checked. So using TSA-approved latches will help keep them safe. And a really cool tip that we learned at an airport with a not so great incident is that if you put zip ties on your cases, if TSA is going to check those bags and clip your zip ties, they're required to replace those zip ties. So those are great things to have around as well to keep your cases safe and secure. Now, here are some tips on how to be best prepared when you are traveling for a corporate shoot or a run and gun documentary. The first thing is doing a ton of pre-production. Make sure you sit down with your client, figure out what they need, sit down with your crew and talk about gear and talk about logistics and really figure out almost step by step how the shoot's gonna go when you hit the ground running. Make sure you buffer in plenty of time between certain things because anytime you're on the road and you're unfamiliar with the location, things are always gonna take longer than you think.
Okay, so we're on location now and we're actually here the night before the shoot. It's always a great idea if you can get an extra day, even an afternoon, something not on the same day of the shoot to pre-light, especially if you're traveling. It's a great tip just to build in that buffer time because if something goes wrong and you need something, you're not up against the clock with the client showing up ready to go.
Now, whenever you can, it'd be great to do a site visit, but these days a Zoom call or a FaceTime video or even some photos from somebody's phone will do the trick. From here, you can develop a really great lighting diagram and lighting plan, and that sometimes will dictate even what kind of stuff you're going to pack. Now, some tips for shooting on the fly or run and gun interviews. Number one, evaluate the amount of firepower you have with lighting and don't fight the sun, harness the sun.
We're in a conference room, so we're gonna do our best to make this conference room look sexy. Two things, we wanna make sure we leverage the power of the windows. Also, if you're using cameras that might not lend as well to dynamic range when filming directly into light. That's another kind of a critical piece. If you don't quite have the gear to handle it, don't take up that fight. You're never gonna win a fight with the sun.
And like Dean said, we are working with the sun, not against it. So we're jumping on Sun Surveyor right away. We're gonna leverage our Amaran F22s as a very great compact travel light. And we're gonna set up two of those bad boys. We actually ended up bringing our 600D. We stuffed it in a Pelican 1610 case. We got it here, so we're gonna leverage that power and we're gonna blast it into the ceiling so we can get a nice ambient fill up the room a little bit, compensate for those windows, and we're gonna use our Amaran F22 as our main key source. We're gonna use some scissor clamps. We're gonna get up on the table or something, get wild, take our shoes off, get comfortable.
Definitely take my shoes off.
Taking the shoes off, and we're gonna put an Amaran F22 in the ceiling with a magic arm. We're gonna let that kind of hang down a little bit, give us a nice edge light. So having those Amaran F22s are key because they're portable, they're light, they're powerful, 200-watt lights, and then having that 600D obviously is a must if you're shooting into windows.
Number two, always find some depth in your room or your location. Sometimes we get confined into small or cramped spaces, so shooting into a corner will always elongate the room, and getting the subject away from that background as far as you can will create some separation and really enhance the depth of even some small, tight spaces.
If we are shooting in a location that might be a little bland or stale, we want to blur out the background as much as we can. So even on a wide shot, we might shoot up to 45 or 50 mil, just pull the thing back so we can see a little bit more scene, but really get the subject focused in the background blur. Great. And obviously the second camera angle will be somewhere between 85 and 105. Get nice and tight, fade everything out, focus on what the speaker's talking about. And so, again, just always remember, shoot on the shadow side. Whatever you key on, shoot on the other side so we can see Rembrandt's triangle and we can get a lot of good depth on their face.
Number 3, be really crafting with how you light. And it's really hard to sometimes break out of our mold with a giant key light and a giant softbox or a book light setup with multiple diffusion frames, but be creative. Sometimes you gotta do things that are a little bit unconventional given the space and the equipment that you have. Also, be flexible with the kind of gear you're using. You might mount a light on the floor. You might even be forced to have to hang lights in unconventional places like the ceilings. Be crafty with how you do things, and especially in the department of lighting. You're gonna have to be flexible. Sometimes you might have to find a bed sheet or a curtain, and that might be your diffusion. And that's okay. As long as it achieves the look that you're going for, it doesn't really matter how you got there. Number 4, you gotta work as a team. You might have just a couple hands on set. That means everybody's gonna have to wear a lot of different hats. Don't be so rigid when you're in a run and gun situation that if you have a specific job, that you're not able to lend a hand to somebody that's doing a different job right next to you. Your job is super important, I get it, but don't be afraid to lend a hand to the person next to you. Oftentimes we're limited with equipment, space, and sometimes even personnel. So being able to wear multiple hats and do different things on set becomes really critical to a functioning team and a very successful shoot.
We're using a pair of Komodos because they really are probably one of the most portable and versatile cameras you can take on the road. They're super compact, cube format. If you even use cinema lenses on there, it doesn't make the whole package very, very big, and it runs forever on V-mount batteries. Also, they don't require very big support, so we don't need to bring the big Sockler tripods. We can bring some travel tripods that sometimes are even just meant for photography. Pop them up wherever.
Hey, don't forget the audio. I think the audio might even be more important than the video, because if you can't hear anything, it doesn't matter anyway. Being crafty also with how you set up your audio is really critical in these environments. Sometimes a boom's appropriate, sometimes lavaliers are appropriate, sometimes a combination of the two. It's really important that you have the flexibility of either one and know when to use which one depending on the space and the limitation of your environment. Now, in addition to shooting great interview, we've got to shoot great B-roll. Now, doing, again, in pre-production, some scouting of locations and really reading the story and understanding what the people are going to be talking about to give supportive B-roll that makes sense is super critical.
Hey, what's up guys? Vinny here, and I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to shoot run and gun B-roll. Now, 2 of these 3 tips are geared towards any type of B-roll filming, whether that's large lighting packages with big crews, or no lighting and just a camera and a lens. These 3 tips should give you a better understanding of how we like to shoot B-roll and how to best capture the client's vision. Okay, and tip number 1, try to have at least 2 camera operators. One camera operator focusing on the wide shots, maybe having a 16 to 28 millimeter lens or 18 to 35, somewhere in that range, and the other camera operator having a medium to tighter focal length so that you can get different coverages all within that same time frame. This is very efficient for the client and for the crew. And if you aren't able to get 2 shooters, at least have a zoom lens on your camera. This is going to allow that single operator to be able to zoom in and out and to get that wide or get that medium to tight shot all within one take. But best case scenario, you have 2 camera operators capturing the same shot at the same time. And tip number 2, you might be surprised, this isn't about gear. This is actually quite the opposite. If you give off a low and unconfident energy to the subject or person you're filming, they will then start to feel uncomfortable and unconfident, which in turn will show in the final product. So if you're filming the client or subject in the shot and you are confident, you're excited, you're firm and direct with your direction, then they will start to feel confident. So this tip is definitely not about having all the fancy gear. Go get this camera, go get this lens. It doesn't matter what camera package you have or even the size of the client that you have. As long as you exude confident energy and give the person that you're filming confident energy, then I promise you it will show in the final product. And the opposite way around, if you give them low and unconfident energy, that will also show in the final product. And tip number 3, master your equipment. I'm a firm believer in owning your own camera, owning your own package, something that you're comfortable with and something that you've gotten plenty of reps in. If it's a new setup that you're going for in your upcoming project, make sure that you practice it over and over and over. And in practical terms, maybe you play basketball and you want to get better at your free throw. Then you'll go to the gym and rep out free throws. So this is no different for filmmakers. Whenever I get a new piece of gear, maybe it's a camera or a lens or even a light, I'm putting in countless reps at home before I ever try to bring it out on set. So it's not so much about chasing the big clients or the fancy camera packages, but practicing with what you have and mastering your gear so that you're putting more focus and energy on the subject that you're filming and not fiddling with your gear.
That's it, everybody. That's how we travel and that's how we shoot majority of our corporate interviews and run and gun doc work. Hey, if you like this video, let us know in the comments below. If there's some other tips and tricks that you guys have where you're out there traveling and doing your run and gun thing, we'd love to hear it too. We love to make content based on your comments, so please feel free to drop some comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell everybody about this channel. Come back for some more education and some more fun. We will see you on the next one.